Joining me now is Republican Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee. And we should note to our viewers, you can see him right here on the left side of the screen of this photo you're looking at as Congressman Rogers lunged over. We should note CNN has reached out to Rogers' office for comment, invited him to come on the program. We have not heard back, but Congressman Burchett is with us, and thanks so much for doing that. Congressman, we're used to seeing scenes play out like this in other countries. We don't see it happen on the House floor in the United States very often. Obviously, people were exhausted last night. Tempers were flaring. It was late at night. Tell us what you saw. What was happening in the lead up to this moment?
Well, you're correct. It was very late. You realize that both sides have some older members, and it was getting late, and I suspect most of them had missed the early bird special at the Sizzler, so they were getting a little cantankerous. And Mike, who's a friend of mine, came by and said some things, probably in haste, as a lot of us do, and I probably responded to him with some things as well. And Matt Matt Gaetz had asked to review some of those rules before we voted on Speaker, and he felt like he wasn't given enough time to do just that, and asked for a little more time. And you can see me later in one of the tapes going like that because I'd asked our leadership to give us a little bit of a break so we could put our heads together and go over some of those things. And it was just an unfortunate situation, and that's what happens when people are tired. And and as you said, it was the 15th ballot that we were able to pass.
Yeah, but what was going through your mind when you saw Congressman Rogers being restrained, just being there at that moment?
Well, you can see one of the earlier pictures where I'd actually stiff-armed him, and I knew he'd lost his cool. It's the second time he'd done that week. He'd done it earlier in a conference meeting and made some similar demands towards some of us. And it was unfortunate. It's one of those regrettable things, but it's something that'll be remembered. I don't think it should take away anything from leader, now Speaker McCarthy's his victory, because it was hard fought. And I think something you also have to remember is that Lauren Boebert and Matt Gaetz had worked around the clock with several members of the Freedom Caucus to get some of these rules in place, and there are some excellent rules. Some of those things, you mentioned the vacate the chair with one person. That was actually in place since the 1920s, and Speaker Pelosi had taken that out. So other things that we did in the Tennessee legislature in my 16 years, some transparency items. You're putting some more fiscally conservative members on things like the Rules Committee. And if you remember the transportation bill, it's a huge bill, over $1 trillion. And it was passed out of committee after a 16-hour markup of the bill. And then it went to the Speaker's office, and she, with some help of some lobbyists and some advisors, actually rewrote the entire bill. And then it was put on the floor without any debate, and we weren't allowed to amend it any step further. So these things that were put into place that Matt Gaetz fought very hard, and Lauren Boebert and some of us fought very hard to put into place, are things that will prevent things like that from happening in the future. So I think it was...
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask you, because I was wondering whether or not, because Gaetz was one of the last holdouts, whether you had felt in any way he had been antagonizing some of his colleagues to the point where something like that was likely to happen. It sounds like you don't put this on Gaetz.
I don't. He's a member. He has a right. He represents the constituency. And if you ever go down to a very nice area of Florida where my wife and I occasionally get to go down there about once every 2 years, in the Destin area. He is very popular down there, and the reason he is because he's an independent thinker. He's an attorney, and he stands up for his people, and that's what he was doing. That's what all 435 of us should do, and also he made a commitment to Lauren Boebert, and that he would not fold until the rules package. In fact, he was able to read it, and that's where, like I said, where you see me giving him that. We had talked about taking a 1 hour break, adjourned for 1 hour, and that's what we were trying to work out. And then we we were just going to adjourn and come back on Monday. And Matt, there's you can see where he and I are talking, and Lauren and he are talking. And he decided, in fact, that, and Leader McCarthy had come up and literally promised him that we'd work through all that. And Matt took Leader McCarthy at his word. They'd had some words during the week, and Matt had said some things on the floor and about the leader. And I think Speaker McCarthy would like to make those things right, and I think he will. And I think, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to follow up on that because one of the things that Congressman Gates has said is that because of some of these concessions that Speaker McCarthy had to make, that it's going to be like running the House in a straitjacket. Do you think it's going to be impossible to govern, impossible to preside over the House for the upcoming speaker, the incoming speaker, because of some of these concessions? All it takes is one member to go to the House floor.
Sure.
Right. Couldn't Matt Gaetz do this next week? Start it all over again?
He could do it every day, but it's just a vote of confidence is what it is. And it would be a simple majority. So I think being in leadership and being able to control the floor vote is a key thing. And of course, the whip, our new whip, who was Steve Scalise, now it's Tom Emmer, will do an excellent job. Guy Riesenthaler is his number 2 man. He and I came to Congress together. They have an excellent working machine on that. They know how to work the floor, and they do it very well. But I think literally, I really do think it holds the speaker accountable to the people, to the real people. It is called the People's House for a reason, and that thing was in place since the 1920s. So, and we never had a problem with it up until then. And there have been some very tight majorities and minorities versus the Republicans, the Democrats. Jim, I think it just puts the people more in charge of their house, which it should. You don't have a bully. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, let me ask you this. When it was all over, the Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, thanked former President Donald Trump for playing a role in this. Let's take a listen.
I do want to especially thank President Trump. I don't think anybody should doubt his influence. He was with me from the beginning. Somebody wrote the doubt of whether he was there, and he was all in. He would call me, and he would call others. And he really was, I was just talking to him tonight, helping get those final votes. And what he's really saying, really for the party and the country, that we have to come together.
I'm setting aside that last part of what Speaker McCarthy said, that the former president would like to see the country come together. I think a lot of Americans would probably sharply disagree with that, very likely and definitely sharply disagree with that. But do you agree that it was a good idea to have the former president play a role in all this?
I can't speak for Trump, honestly. I know that Gaetz and Boebert did not receive a call from him, at least when I was sitting there with them. So maybe some other members it did, and if that influenced them in a positive way, I think that'd be a great thing. It just everybody is adding on the positive category, and victories has 100 fathers and defeats an orphan. So I pile on for all I care. I don't care who called. I was just glad. I was glad to see Kevin McCarthy. I voted for him 15 times, so there's no question my loyalty of any of that. And so, but I also met with him early on, and I made very similar requests that the Freedom Caucus did, and I received about 85% of what I asked for.
But you're not worried. You're not worried, Congressman, that this looks like your party is not ready for prime time?
No, heck no, brother. Honestly, Jim, and we miss you in Knoxville, brother. But the truth is that
I miss everybody down there in Knoxville too. But yeah.
Yes, sir. I had more debate this week in Congress, more meaningful debate, more intermingling. I would go over and talk on the Democrat side. I talked to my friends in the squad, AOC and Omar and all of them. Speaker Pelosi came down and sat beside me, checked on my daughter who got hurt in a horse accident because she has a granddaughter her name is Isabella, and my daughter's name is Isabel. And she asked me about my wife, Kelly. It gave us time to interact. We actually interacted more this week than we have in the last 4 years. And if anything, I think that relationship building is where it was at. When I used to be in the state legislature, we had very I can't remember. The last couple of years, of my 16 years, we were in the majority, but it really didn't change much because we worked together across the aisle. Steve Cohen, who is probably as far to the left as I am to the right, out of Memphis, he and I worked when I was in the legislature. We raised the speed limit together. You know, he called my mama when my daddy died. We have those kind of relationships, and I think this week, a lot of those barriers dissolved, at least a little bit. And so, you know, it's always going to be, democracy is not a pretty thing. Sometimes it's ugly. Sometimes it's just a knockdown, drag out. But maybe that's what we need to get to where we're at. And I think the country's going to be well served. I honestly do.